Well, it's going to be dry with sunny spells today and just the small risk of a few mist patches around the coasts. Light winds with temperatures, listen to this, 20 degrees Celsius today. The outlook much of the next week will stay dry and warm with light winds and sunny intervals. And sunset this evening, 9:42. Let's hear all that in Manx now with Phil Gawne.
An emsio diw, tirum, ach to Gawne be pert the hay na froch on Sliston the Mara. Ach shallen gyal na grienach a sulvain na Sliston. Geachen fes fos on as temperelus smoo feed Celsius. An riet, tirum as blas on good smoo gin schachten, short shit, lesh green cachlei. Lai na grenia nach 8 minute jeg roast jai.
9.5 minutes past 10. Moramai. Good morning to Phil Gawne. How are you, Costello?
Moramai, Tammy Brow, I'm fine.
Fine.
Kistow Heeden, how are you yourself?
Brow as well.
Oh, Yindasa, wonderful.
Wonderful, yeah. Caratanor, is that the one?
Caratanor, Hasem, and Hasem, Hanel Fisim. I don't know. There is not knowledge at me. I'm not sure, really.
What is that one again? There's not knowledge at me.
Yeah.
Because that's another one I like. Instead of the sort of, I don't know.
Yeah, Hanel Fisim or Hasem. Is
Hasem.
Yeah, they tend to sort of shorten these things.
Yeah.
But yeah, too early on a Sunday morning to be asking questions about what's new.
Fair enough.
I'm here on time. I've managed to get up on time. So
yeah. Well, how was your trip in? Mine was peaceful.
Yeah, yes,
because
it was great.
Obviously when I got up to Tholty Will, it's always a nervous trip on the Mad Sunday.
Yes, I can
to
well
come
imagine.
from Derby to here, because you think, will I go Ballycrane way or if the mountain's open? So I never heard nothing. I always check before I go. So going up to Tholty Will, and I met a couple of vans and a bike, a few bikes coming down. I thought, are they turned off at the bungalow?
Yeah.
So you always get that sort of jittery feeling then. I've got the newsroom on speed dial just in case I have to turn around and go back the wrong way. And then sort of going up, I thought, oh no, there's a bike going up towards Halewoods Rise. When you get round the expense, I thought, couldn't see any more. So when I got to the bungalow, nothing. The 2 policemen were there, but the road was closed from Ramsey to the bungalow.
Oh, I see.
So obviously on the mountain then there was nothing.
So it'd be quiet. Yeah.
It was quiet, but
yes, it was nice and quiet coming along the shoulder road into Foxtel this morning. So.
Yeah, but then I remember I was coming down into Governor's Bridge, and I thought, they were all lined up for the Simon Andrews lap.
Yes,
and
of course.
I remember when I wasn't married and didn't have kids. When I had a motorbike, I had my brother's 600 Yamaha actually then, and it was after sadly Joey Dunlop was killed, and then they had a lap in I think it was the Manx Grand Prix week memorial lap, but it was closed roads then.
Right, gosh.
And I was lucky enough to ride round on the closed roads for that.
Yeah.
Only slow pace.
Yeah.
But we were at the second roundabout at the bottom where Governor's Bridge, is where the roundabout is. That's how far back they were from the start of the grandstand.
Wow.
And there was more people behind us.
Yes, it's a tremendous thing, isn't it? And the TT itself just such a tremendous draw for people to come to the island.
Yeah. So just be aware of that. Obviously the road, as we knew, was still closed from Leaney Road in Ramsey to the bungalow. The Simon Andrews Memorial Lap was due to get underway at 10 o'clock this morning. They're hoping to get that RTC sorted out, the police say, and hopefully the Simon Andrews Lap can get underway at 10:30. So just be aware, if you are out and about on the roads today, there will be a big conglomerate of motorcycles in one go going around today, fairly steady I'd imagine. So just be aware of that if you're heading everywhere, because there's lots of different things on around parts of the island today. Right, Phil, last week we started talking about Harry Kelly. We've had a couple of other weeks of that, haven't we? We were talking about Manx place names, particularly around the TT course, and we're going to be talking about César Cashin as well, just before we play our next song. César Cashin?
Yes, César Cashin was a tremendous Manx speaker, folklorist from Peel, and I was saying to Annie just as I was heading out, I'm not sure that he died this day in 1912 or well, he wouldn't have been born in 1912, so it must have been he died this day in 1912. So that's why I thought, well, let's have a look at some of Caesar Cashin's writings. He was also a brilliant Manx speaker and taught a number of the people who taught me ultimately how to speak Manx. So great man.
10 o'clock it is on Manx Radio's Moghrey Jedoonee. Of course, it means Sunday morning in the Manx language, as we said, and plenty going on around the Isle of Man, as we mentioned. So just be aware of that. It's going to be a busy day here in the Isle of Man, and it certainly is a sunny day here on Douglas Head. We can see for miles and miles. And, well, the sun is bright, and that means pictures at the Great Union Camera Obscura will be excellent. So why not avoid the bikes and come up if you don't get involved in the congestion. Pop up to Douglas Head and have a look just below the road here on Douglas Head. You'll see where the flag is. It's open from 11 this morning till 4. And your guide for that, it'll not be Harry Kelly, it'll be Peter Kelly.
Yes, it'd be interesting if Harry Kelly was doing it, certainly.
Well, it would be that.
Well, and of course, it'll be interesting when Peter's doing it too. But
it is. He's such a knowledgeable
absolutely,
man, passionate about
yes,
history.
it's a great thing to be passionate about your history and culture. And
we'll get him up on the programme one day.
Yeah, we should.
There'll be plenty to talk about.
Yes, we'd probably need 4 hours though, not
we'll
just
get him
the 2.
on every couple of weeks. But good. So that's the Camera Obscura here below us on Douglas Head. That's open until 4 from 11 today. But we started talking about some place names around the TT course in particular, the Manx and the English versions of them filled in with.
Yes. Well, I forget how many years ago now it was, but a few years ago, anyway, Adrian Kane from Culture Vannon, the Manx language officer there, was asked to translate the course, the TT course, or course and clue, course and clue, the mountain course. Clue is the word for a mountain. So you got all the various sloughs all over the island.
Yeah, but like Snaefell is a part of mountain, isn't it?
Yeah,
Snow
well,
mountain.
that's Snaefell. They reckon is a Scandinavian version. So fell or fjall, Snaefjall. I think they think it came from, which is the snow mountain. But no, course and clue is the course of the mountain. So the mountain course. So Adrian has done this translation, and seeing as how it's TT week, I thought we should do a lap of the course in Manx, just to see see how good the Manx of our listeners are. So you start obviously at Tajacht as Jera, start and finish. Tajacht as Jera, start and finish. And of course, to witness the Tajacht as Jera, you would be sitting on the Erdan Say, which is the grandstand, or the sitting platform, effectively is what Erdan Say would be. Then, of course, you get the tap on the shoulder, and off you go at far faster than I think you probably should, really. Down Cronkbrae, which is
Bray Hill.
Bray Hill, of course. For some reason, Quarterbridge doesn't seem to be on this map. But that would be Droghad and Carew. And then round Quarterbridge, zip along to Droghad Vraden. So you're getting a bit of a clue there as to what the word for bridge might be in Manx. Droghad. Then you head out...
because that's sorry to interrupt,
no.
that sort of goes with the Kindrockad Road.
Yes, that's it.
At Andres, isn't it? The bridge end road.
Yeah, absolutely. Cion is the word for a head or an end. Tami Chitka Cion, I'm coming to a finish, coming to the end, Cion. But yeah, Droghad. So that's Droghad Vraden. Then we go the next... Well, I'll read out the names he's translated. There's a few others that you might have fitted in as well, but Ballagary, not too far away from Ballagary, which is what people would know, but Ballia is the way you would probably pronounce it in Manx. Although again, as I've said, I think in previous programmes, the trouble with place names is they are notoriously difficult. So we would imagine it's Ballyagary from our knowledge of Manx now. And yet all the place names refer to Bala. You very rarely hear any place names called Ballia. So that kind of indicates that maybe 1,000 years ago or several hundred years ago, when people were getting fixed on their place names, maybe there was a different version of Gaelic that was being used for that. But Ballyagary, it would appear, certainly in these days. Then we've got Crosby, which is just Crosby, or Crosby, as I said last week. My grandmother used to call it. Castelgrebe, which is Grebe Castle or Castle. Yeah. And then another Droghid. There seems to be quite a lot of Drochids on the first stretch of the course. Droghid, Grebe Bridge. Grebe Bridge. Then we get to Ballyacrane or Ballacrane at the corner there.
Well, we'll stop there.
Great.
For a bite in the old pub. Seeing we're bringing back
yes. Gosh,
and we'll do some more after the break. 10:30 exactly it is on Manx Radio's FM frequencies, here live from the studios on Douglas Head in the beautiful Isle of Man. Let's update you on the weather in English and in Manx, and then give you the duty chemist rota for today if you need a pharmacist. First, the weather: dry with sunny spells and just a small risk of a few mist patches around the coasts. Light winds with temperatures up to 20 degrees Celsius today. The outlook: much of next week will stay dry and warm with light winds and sunny intervals.
As an imshe Jew, Chirum, och to gau beg on the be pert the hay na froch on Sliston the Mara, och shallen gal na grienach a soul vai na Sliston. Geachen fes fos on as temperelus smoo feed Celsius. And reet, Chirum as blasen and hood smoo jane chachten, short shit. Leis Grian Cachley.
10:33 it is on a Sunday morning, and Phil Gawne and myself, Simon Clarke, here on Moghrey Jedoonee through till 12 o'clock today. We'll be hearing from Christy de Haven very shortly indeed. She'll have a big day today. She's been doing chat shows. Our next local track, because she's a very good singer as well, we'll play a bit of that. And she's on the Sunday soundtrack this afternoon from 2 o'clock until 5.
She's getting greedy.
Not saying they'll be paying her for all the programmes.
Well, absolutely.
So, let's get back. We've got as far as the place or home of the or farm of the Cranes.
Yes, yeah.
Ballacrane. And place names we're talking about.
Yes, place names of the Cuas and Clew, the mountain course. And just while we're at Ballacrane, I thought we would take a little trip south to the Ballamorda. Because I was just telling you earlier, there was this wonderful fella called Georgie Garrett. Unfortunately, poor fella's died now. But I remember when we were having mill days up at Craignash at the Folk Museum there, Georgie would come in and entertain us with these yarns. I remember him telling us all about this fella, Crasher White. And of course, Georgie was going to school at Ballamorda. There's a school on the Ballamorda Strait. And I don't know how many years ago, this must have been 60, 70, maybe more years ago. But there was this fella, and a lot of the teams would actually go to practice on the Ballamorda Strait, as you could well imagine, because it's a nice big long strait. And of course, 80 years ago, there wasn't quite so much traffic about it as there is now. But apparently all the kids would gather on the school wall to watch these TT riders zipping up and down the Ballamorda Strait, and this fella called Crasher White would be there. He was the big favourite, and presumably called Crasher White because he was very good at falling off his motorbike. So
you'd hope he wouldn't fall off on the Ballamorda.
No, that wouldn't do really, would it? But yeah, no. Apologies for taking that little detour south from Ballacrane, but I
you had to get some south in somewhere.
Yes, I really enjoyed that story. All Georgie's stories. He was a great man. Anyway, so then we move north from Ballyacrane to another Droghid again, Droghid Valeg. We heard a little bit about Valeg in the last programme. We think, looking at the place name, it's Ballyleg, the place of the lag, the little hollow. So Droghid Valeg is the bridge of the place of the hollow. And then go a little bit further north. We go to Brew Loris, which is Laurel Bank, Brew Loris. then we head up to Glen Lamel, which is actually the Manx for Glen Helen. I'm not quite sure what Lamel means because I haven't brought my place name dictionary, but that was the original place name. Apparently, Glen Helen was planted up in memory of the daughter of the person who did it 150 years ago, sometime like that. Before that, it was more of an open sort of glen. Craig Willie Sill, we heard again about that last week. Willie Sylvester's hill. Willie Sylvester used to take his horse and cart up there from Poortown to work, apparently. Cronkavody, the Hill of the Dogs. Everyone knows Cronkavody, or if they don't, they should do. The centre of the cultural universe is Cronkavody Young Men's Club, although coming from Reggaby you might have different, or from the north you might
similar.
have...
They're very similar.
Similar sort of place. Yeah, great fun out at Cronky. And then Clach Vila Nenjeg. Any ideas what that might be?
Clarke?
Clach Vila Nenjeg. So Clach is a stone. Vila would be of miles. So Clach Vila is the milestone. Nenjeg, 11. Yeah. So the 11th milestone. Clach Vila Nenjeg. Cornel Handley.
I thought Cregan was rock.
Well, it's a different sort. Clach is like a stone or a rock, but yeah, more of a stone, I suppose. Clach. And then Cornel Handley. Cornel is the word for a corner. Cornel Handley, Handley's corner. Then we get to Bergarrow, or the Bergarrow, as they were calling it, the rough road. Another Clach Vila for you. Clach Vila Trijeg.
The 13th milestone?
Yeah, Clach Vila Trijeg. And then we get to Skeelamel, Kirkmichael. Skeelamel, the parish of Michael, really. Lube Birken, which is a kind of a loop or a corner, Birken's corner. Rhine Cullen, or Wren Cullen, as we would say it in English, I suppose. Tai Alpach, Alpine
house or
cottage.
Yeah.
Ballianalacha, or Ballialaf, basically. So again, you could have another Droghad there. Droghad Ballianalab or Ballianalacha, and would be Balaf Bridge. So I think we've probably travelled far enough now around the course, and we'll take another break.
Balaf Bridge, Phil, we've got two with our Manx place names.
Yes, we've just leapt over Droghad Ballianalacha, managed to regain our control of the machine, and heading north again. Leuben and Chwarel. Lube, as you recall, is a loop or a bend. So Leuben and Chwarel is Quarry Bends. Go a bit further and we get to Caer Region Sulby. So Caer Region, Caer is the word for four. Region.
The crossroads.
Yeah, so basically four roads or crossroads. So Sulby Crossroads. We head down a bit further and we get to Droghad Sulby. Another Droghad there, right. Sulby Bridge. Taimur Gensha. Ginger Hall. I love the way we spell ginger in Manx. Jinshar. Ginsha.
Is it? Right.
Which is great. And then we're on to a few glens here. Glodden Duff. Is
there a Carramore?
Not on this version of the TT
right.
course, but there may well be. You'll know the north side of the course better than I will. Glodden Duff. Then we go to Glodden Tramon. The Tramon tree, of course, is a very important tree in Manx folklore. I remember we were making a silage pit when silage first came in, it got as far as Poolvash anyway. Probably, when would that be? Late 70s, 80s time, somewhere around that. And there was this big Tramon tree in the corner, just where we wanted to put the the entrance to
No, I
the
bet you nobody
Sarah's
wanted to
pit.
dig her up.
And me father said, "Oh, we'll have to leave that." But my brother was ready there with the saw, ready to chop it down. And in the end, the tramman tree. I think the tramman tree is still there anyway. So yeah, that was yeah. So that's Gawne Tramman. Sorry, I keep
The
getting
water
aside here.
trough corner.
Right, water
Glen
trough.
Tramman corner.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
yeah,
we always knew it as the water trough.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And of course, there's all sorts of words for that. Trach ostja, I suppose you say, the water trough. Trach ostja. And lube trach ostja would be the corner. And then we've got more lubes here. There's lube gear, the short corner, would that be? Or the narrow corner, maybe? Or the sharp corner, that would be it. Lube gear would be, I don't know where that would be, what the English
What's the
would be
next
for
one?
that. Lube, tie and skull.
A schoolhouse.
Schoolhouse corner. Then Keren Skila Christ, the parish of Christ's Square. So which is Skila Christ? Is that Lazaire, is it? What's the name? Well, no, it's Parliament Square, isn't it? So I don't quite know. Keren Skila Christ, anyway, is the next one on Adrian's map. Then we get to Obrachen Ostje. Obrachen Ostje. So you know what Ostje is? Yeah. So Obrachen is works.
The waterworks.
Yeah, waterworks. Obrachen Ostje. And then this wonderful word, Mwanel Gui. Mwanel Gui.
Is that the gooseneck?
Yes, Gui is
I
the
wouldn't
word
have
for-
known, but I just guessed.
Yeah, Mwanel Gui. Then Clarke Vila Joey. Joey's milestone.
Aye.
Clarke Vila Joey.
26th.
Yeah, that's it, at 26th. And then Can Guthrie, Guthrie Memorial. Can Guthrie. Can is the word for a kind of a mound or a memorial there. So, yeah. So, after all that excitement, time for another break.
We'll have a rest at Guthrie's there. We're just going through a lot of the place names around the Isle of Man TT course, just because it's TT week. And obviously those who are hoping to gain a few Manx words from it all, that's what we're trying to do on this morning's programme between now and 12. It's 14 minutes before. Right, let's head up the mountain. We got as far as Guthrie's Memorial. Phil, we got a minute to fill off these.
Yeah, Meala and Clew is the next one. The Meala, as we heard before, is a mile. Meala and Clew, the mile of the mountain, or the mountain mile. Then we get to Bweg, Roo. Bweg is the word for a hut, and Roo, or do, is the word for black, so black hut. The veranda, that's easy. In Manx, veranda is veranda. Then as we go past Snjall, which is the Manx for Snaefell, we get to Drachad Cloy, the Stonebreakers Bridge, Bweg, Graham's hut, or perhaps memorial. The bungalow again. Bungalow in Manx is bungalow. What's the word for bungalow in English? I hear you ask. Then Uchtach Halewood, Halewood's Rise. And as you go past Uchtach Halewood, there's a Manx place name there, Chibba Slew Mal, which is the well of the mountain of the. I'm trying to think what's the polite word for this, testicles, I suppose you would say. Apparently, it's where they used to castrate the sheep. Was this place. So, so there's an interesting one. I hope everyone's finished their best breakfast.
I think that's a good time to have a break. Pretty good looking the weather forecast for today and a few days ahead as well. Dry with sunny spells today and just the small risk of a few mist patches around the coasts. Light winds with temperatures around 20 degrees Celsius today. The outlook much of next week will stay dry and warm with light winds and sunny intervals. Let's hear that in Manx now with Phil Gawne.
Nemsje Jew, Chirum, och de gauw beg on the be pert de geen a frog on slisten de mare, och shallen gjal na greenach a soelvine slisten. Gieren fast foes on as temperelus smooth feed Celsius. Chirum as blas on een goed smooth je en chacht en short chit lesh green kach lay.
Going to is Phil Gawne and myself, Simon Clarke, till 12 today. What we were talking about in the first hour of the programme, and plenty of good old place names in Manx that reflect the names that are on the signs, isn't it? A bit of meaning we're trying to give to them.
Yeah. No, it's very interesting, as you say. You go around the TT course, whether the last place name that we read out will have put people off completely.
Oh, where was it? Brandywell.
Yeah, just the what was it, Slough or Droghid Slough Mal. No, it wasn't Droghid. It was Chibber. The well of Slough Mal, which is the place they used to castrate the sheep. However, just before we finished the lap of the TT course, I was just listening on the news there about how well the Ellen Vannon team is doing in the alternative version of the World Cup, which is taking place down in London at the moment. It's just fantastic to see that we're doing so well. Our first two games down there. Amazing coverage, global coverage. There's a big piece on Sky Sports, if anyone was interested in that as well. That was on this morning. So getting some fantastic coverage for the Isle of Man. And it's unlikely we would ever manage to do that well in terms of the official World Cup. But this CANIFA version, which seems to be small states and semi-independent areas, it seems to be doing very well.
Yeah, and a lot of the names of the places, they're all sort of called their own national sort of names in a
absolutely.
way. Absolutely,
yeah. No, so it's a great thing. I'm delighted that Ellen Vannon's doing well, and let's hope we can get through to the sort of the semi-finals or the finals even. That would be fantastic.
I think we'll win it.
Well, I hope so. It'd be great. So anyway, going back to the TT course, we've got Clach Vila Duke. So Clach Vila, as we've heard before, is the milestone. So Duke's milestone. Conneal Nagee, the windy corner. Then Giat Keppel. Giat Keppel is Keppel's Gate. Now, gate actually comes from the Norwegian word, or the Scandinavian word gat, which actually means the way, or there's complications, put it that way, in terms of place names, because some of these things were physical gates, effectively, to stop the sheep straying down from the mountain. But then there's also gat, which means the way. So it could be that there was a sort of an old road that way. So, but Giat Keppel, probably Keppel's Gate, but it could have also been Gat. Then we go down to Crot Tate, or Kate's Cottage, Cregnabar, the hill of the cows, Conneal Brandish,
Brandish Corner. Yeah.
Cronknamona, the hill of the peat. Mona is peat, and I think we've heard in previous programmes the Morny Moor, Morny Beg is the sort of the place of the peat or the sour ground. Then Conneal Stowran Cowrie, signpost corner. Stowran Cowrie, the mast of the sign or the signpost.
Right. Yeah.
Droghid and Cianúit. Another Droghid, just to finish the lap, the Droghid and Cianúit, the governor's bridge, the bridge of the governor, literally. And then we're back to Tajachtas Jera, the start and finish line, and the Erdensay, the high seating place, or the grandstand.
Wonderful.
So a fantastic lap, probably the slowest lap of the mountain course that we'll have been doing this week. But
we didn't get under the 17
no,
minutes.
I don't think so.
Excellent stuff. And listen, if you're thinking, I've just caught the back end of that, don't fear, because after today, the programme, the full of Moghrey Jedoonee, will be available on Manx Radio Portal, on the Manx Radio website, powered by Miller Chaps. So just head on to there and go to the Listen Again feature, the portal as well, and there's video features as well of the programme. So to do me hair for today, remember to do that one.
Which one?
See, so 16 past 11 o'clock. Harry Kelly.
Yes.
We spoke about the cottage and memories of him.
Last week I mentioned a little bit about this because I'm a trustee at Manx National Heritage, and I know I'd been invited to something which is going to take place not this Sunday but next Sunday down at Harry Kelly's on the 10th of June. which is the 80th anniversary. And I wasn't sure last week whether this was a public thing or just for the trustees, but yes, it's a public do down at Harry Kelly's 80th anniversary, 10th of June, 1 p.m. till 5 p.m. But if you want to avoid the crowds, you can still go down before then. Harry Kelly's will be open. So head to Cregneash and help Manx National Heritage celebrate the 80th anniversary of the opening of Harry Kelly's cottage, kindly supported by Lloyd's Bank. Standard admission applies, but down at Harry Kelly's there will be the Manx Craft Guild stalls around the village, Manx Dancing at Church Farm by Perry Bairn, Manx Jazz Aces will be playing all afternoon. There'll be craft demonstrations at Harry Kelly's and Church Farm, tea and cakes, but additional charges will apply. But when I got my invitation through, there was another a friend of mine, the former chairman of Manx National Heritage, a fellow called Tony Pass, said, "Hey, are you going? You know, in the way of these things, because you want to know who's going to be there." So I said yes, and he said, "Do you remember?" Because way back, I mean, I used to work at Cregneash, and there was one Christmas day, and I went out early to do me rounds to get the horses fed and the cattle fed and what have you. And anyway, it was a real big storm that was on, and half the roof was starting to lift on Harry Kelly's. So at the time, Tony Pass was the properties manager, so I gave him a ring to say, "Look, we've got a bit of a problem here." So we spent most of Christmas Day hanging on to ropes, trying to rope the thatch down on Harry Kelly's cottage, which was probably I wouldn't say it was the most fun I've had on Christmas Day, but it was certainly an exciting
Well, you might
way.
have saved it.
Well, yeah, certainly we saved the roof that day. So so the interesting memories there. And actually, on the subject of memories about Harry Kelly, and bearing in mind the importance and the significance really can't be overestimated about Harry Kelly's cottage, because it was the first open air folk museum anywhere in the British Isles, first of all, so that's important. But also the language, the significance of Harry Kelly towards the Manx language. I mean, we try and portray Manx in a more modern context now, but without people like Harry Kelly, recordings that were taken from the likes of Harry Kelly, we would struggle a little bit to understand how the language worked. So we've got lots of recordings of native speakers, primarily resulting from some of the work that was done with Harry Kelly, inspiring some of the Manx speakers of the day, or the scholars of the day, to then go out and do more recordings. So I've got here a few memories from the Culture Vannon website. David Collister, who we would have heard, anyone who was up bright and early this morning would have heard on Manx Radio, did a series of interviews for Culture Vannon. And after this next break, I'll read out a few extracts from two Cregneash people that David Collister spoke to, which tells you a little bit about their memories of Harry Kelly.
Okay, we'll do that. 8 minutes to go on Moghrey Jedoonee till 12 o'clock today, and we're talking some more. We've got some memories of Harry Kelly from some. David Collister had them, did he?
Yes. This was some recordings that or interviews that David Collister did for Culture Vannon. They're on the Culture Vannon website. If ever you get the chance to go on and look at under people and places, you find the oral history, and there's some transcripts, but there's also some recordings as well. Really fantastic resource. And of course, this is all to commemorate the 80th anniversary of Harry Kelly's cottage being opened. And that's happening on the 10th of June down at Cregneash between 1 and 5, a whole load of things happening. So that basically a week today down at Cregneash. So the first interview was with a fella called Stanley Carron, who was a great friend of ours when we were living in Cregneash. Really lovely man, fantastic one for stories. So when asked about Harry Kelly, he says, "Oh, I remember Harry Kelly, yes. I've been in the house many a time seeing Harry. He was a great old character. Harry, and of course, typical old Manxman Harry was. But the funny thing about it was there were so many people round here of my mother's generation that have lived in a different age, and you'd hear very little Manx spoken. Now, on occasion, not often, my mother had a friend coming up from the How, and getting dark, she'd say to me, 'Come on with us,' she says. I want you for company going back. And she'd walk down with her to the howe, and she'd have the company of me for coming back. The whole time those two ladies got together, it was all Manx. Not a word of English. Manx, yes, it was. A Mrs. Crebban, a dear old lady, and it was all Manx the whole way down, and she'd never talk to us in Manx. No, it was disappearing then, I think. The war did a lot to pretty well finish it off, says Stanley. And then Harry. Harry was a fluent Manx speaker, the real Manx. There were one or two Manx speakers apart from him up in Cregneash. Oh, and they could all speak Manx, yes, and you'd hear odd words, and that's all. So that was the first bit from Stanley Carron, and of course his mother and father were both Manx speakers. So then about David asks, Harry Kelly's cottage, would that be pretty much the same as it was when Stanley was a young fella? And Stanley says, pretty much the same, yes. He was a nice old chap, Harry Kelly. I think I met him more on the calf than ashore here, because he worked on the calf, you see, and boating, coming across for provisions and carting sheep across. I don't think he had much to do with the cattle and the horses. That was, they were getting a bit of help with that, you know. The big ones were all swum across, yes. But Harry was a great boy, and he had very often a pet lamb, because his nephew's son-in-law was farming, and there would always be a pet lamb fetched in to Harry to rear. So then he goes on, do you get many people knocking on the door asking, this is David Callister asking Mr. Carron, asking what it's like to live in Cregneash? No, very few, but I've been trying to impress on these museum ones. If you go down to Harry Kelly's, you stand back and take a photo of the cottage. If anyone in front of it, turn around 180 degrees. What is it? A load of rubbish, says Stanley. So Stanley wasn't impressed. These three cottages now, I don't remember the three of them. I remember two of them, gone, demolished. The last cottage I remember with the thatched roof on belonged to the Gawne family. I was down at the well one day with my brother, and the two of us went down, and we heard a crack, and we looked round, and we saw a puff of dust going up from the thatch, and the next thing, down she goes, half of the roof. So that was that was Stanley's memories. And then a very brief one then from Doris Madrill, actually the grandmother of Breesia, who's the director of Culture Vannon. So no nepotism there. Doris says, and I'll tell you another thing. We lived at the bottom of Cregneash and down near Harry Kelly. Well, Harry was on the calf working, and every now and again he'd take a notion to come home. And when he came home, we all knew when he was going to the port down the harbour, because he'd come back with a bag of peppermints, or as he called them, pippermints, and these strong ones, and you'd take them like that to lick them, strong mints. But you'd take them home. They were horrible, really, but we still took them. We knew that Harry'd be down having a dram, you see. Well, of course, we'd play around about Harry when he was home. I always liked him, and yet I heard somebody saying he was, people used to come and go like, and look in his window, and he'd say, "Bad cess to you," and he used to call these people cotton balls. And apparently, cotton balls was referred to them as cotton balls because they would be coming over with the wakes, as they call them. These all the factory owners, the mill factories, where they were processing the cotton. That's why they were calling them cotton balls. So there's some memories of Harry Kelly's. Those are the polite ones, anyway. So
fair enough. Very interesting to hear what they had to say back in them days. But let's have a Manx track for us. The second off the ones this morning, and it's from Barul. A very short one. It's Illiam Taylor, is it?
Illiam Taylor, yes, William the Tailor.
He must have been a dark old character, William the Tailor, wasn't he? There was Barul and Illiam Taylor.
Yes, a wonderful story, actually. We'll maybe talk about that on another programme. There's a song that goes with it too. But,
right. Who's Caesar Cashin?
Yeah, well, Caesar Cashin was this wonderful fella, and unfortunately for Caesar, he died on this day in 1912. But he was a Manx speaker, but also wrote a lot about Manx folklore. And there's some wonderful stuff here. I'll just read out a little bit about it that he's written in his book about fishing. So you'll probably be familiar with some of these yourself. No person was allowed to whistle on board the boat, as it would attract the attention of the Dunya Mara, basically the man of the sea, or the merman, who would be sure to send more wind than was required. No person was allowed to speak of dogs, cats, rabbits, horses or mice, and indeed longtails. A horseshoe was nailed in some place in every boat, that of a stallion being considered the best. It was lucky to dream of a ripe cornfield and of a high tide with an abundance of seaweed on the shore. If a man dreamed of his wife, it was sure to bring fine weather, but if he dreamed of a strange woman, the weather would be bad. It doesn't say what happens if his wife was a strange woman, but that's another matter. If a pair of ravens were seen to fly across the bay, creek or harbour, it was a sign that there would be plenty of herrings caught. If the boat was becalmed, the surest way to bring the wind in a very short time was for a man to stick a knife in the main mast. If it blew a gale when the fishing boats were at sea, it was no unusual thing for fishermen's wives to throw handfuls of salt on the fire. They believed that this would stop the wind from blowing so hard, and this practice was common 50 years ago. Well, bear in mind, Caesar Cashin died in 1912. 50 years ago was probably 1850s when he was writing this. So so some interesting stuff. I mean, there's a whole load of these superstitions and folklore that in Caesar Cashin's book, and perhaps we'll have an opportunity to go through more of those in another programme.
Certainly will. It sounds interesting indeed. It is 80 minutes before 12 o'clock. Still to come, we've got our translation of the song from Manx and English. Manx Radio's Moghrey for a Sunday morning, and just before we go into our next bit, Phil, Roz has been on, said the gate wasn't at Keppel, it was at Tate's or Kate's. And one post was still there when she started marshalling there in 1973.
Yes, that would make sense. I mean, all around the island you find these sort of mountain gates where, as I say, it was distinguishing between the lowlands and the uplands. I think anything that was loose on the uplands was pretty much loose, and these gates were to keep things on the mountain. So, yeah,
good.
Yeah.
Well, last couple of weeks we've been doing a song that I think got up to a part where these group of, well, I'd like to call them lunatics, really, but they set off in the boat, didn't they?
Yes, that's right. I mean, as it said in the first part, Cagimad Noina Frangi as Noia Maracay. We'll fight against the Frenchmen and against the Americans. So this was they bought this boat, and they were going to go off and see what they could do on this privateer. And of course the farmers were all complaining how were they going to get the ploughing done. And anyway, this is how it develops. So Trí Lair Vashin Echiolia Leis Dún Figale Rum say Tre Vietchin Rishan Sterum Hug Erin Ale Ein Cray. So 3 days we had been sailing after we left Ramsey when we met with the tempest that made our flesh quiver. Verdania Tulit Tema as Gillen Colnan Mree as Harry Vuer Vagillach Magillion Comnan Gree. So men were exhausted from bailing, and lads lost their pluck. And Harry Moore was shouting, "My lads, keep up your hearts." And Caden va gattas frena vi rastakaskin taus, and Chronagain va kalt had dodgen freeln and goose. So the sea was big and foaming, stormy beyond measure. Our cross tree fell overboard. We could not keep our course. Lug der vi tamalt sheja, and sterum reached gau fei, as Roshan shen e olak, gus akka ons Mount Bay. So after a spell of blowing, the storm again took rest. On old Christmas Eve, we came to anchor in Mount Bay. A Kjon Trí Lair reached Erlu, echt heischen Sun and Kiden, as Vietchin long vush Holland, as Jedoonee dun hidden. At 3 days' end we were ready again to go to sea. We met a ship from Holland, and we took it for ourselves. Esht, Henkshin tai the ghoulish, lesh gunneractus kjol, as Dania Sarah Vannon the monarch Henknan Gwael. So then we came home to Douglas with shooting and music. The gentlemen of Mona came out proudly to meet us. Ge blacklew fag and spooler, vad monarch ginrazoon, Lord bagatak na nai ein, the coachin uns presoon. Though they liked seeing plunder, they were too proud to say threateningly against us that they would put us in prison. Lia hegshen dusnan drimsje, lug dun ve roshten tai, and long vashin a hatten, the rowie gait noyen lie. So we soon knew to our sorrow, after we'd arrived home, that the ship that we had captured was taken against the law. Effectively, the boys had captured the wrong side ship. And we'll find out what happens to them in the next programme.
Okay. Well, next week on the programme, we've got a special guest, Phil, haven't we?
Yes, Staffan Overgaard from down the port. He's coming on the programme. Staffan is obviously, with a name like Staffan Overgaard, he's not born on the island, but he's very, very passionate about everything to do with Manx culture, language and history. He's a member or an active participant in the projects that the Russian Heritage Trust are doing, particularly on the story of the land. And he's a really good Manx speaker. And I just thought it would be interesting to get a different take on why people from outside the island love the island so much, the culture, the language and all that. So it'd be great to hear from him.
Good. So he'll be on the programme next week. Gurmayad, as always, Phil, thank you very much indeed for your contribution here on Moghrey Jedoonee. And he'll be back in 2 weeks' time with more for us. And don't forget, a full list of programmes on today. Sunday Opinion is next. Christy DeHaven on the Sunday soundtrack from 2. Paul Corkage is in from 5 until 8 with All Requests Sunday. Bob Carswell, Claire Nagale from 8 until 9. And Clive McNeil steps in for Sundown this evening in place of Judith from 9 until 1. Have you been online to check out Smart Local Focus Directory yet? Well, you better get on it. Tune in to Manx Radio during the week for special offers from your favourite island businesses. Click on localfocus.im to find out more what it's all about. Thank you to Phil Gawne on this morning's programme. We're back next week from 10.